Hey there, I wanted to take a brief moment and welcome you to the Focus Point podcast. If this is one of the first episodes that you're hearing from us, please head over to our website, thepointoffocus.com, where you can find out some more information about who we are, what we're doing. You can also find other podcast episodes and blog posts there as well. That's thepointoffocus.com. I'm so glad that you decided to give one of our episodes a listen. I really hope that you will be blessed and encouraged through what you hear in this episode. I also encourage you to share this episode with your family and your friends. Once again, I just thank you for taking some time and listening to our episode. Now, let's dive in to today's episode. Well, as we continue on with our campfire conversations, I really hope that this topic and these different things that we've looked at over the last few days have been helpful and encouraging because they've really helped and encouraged me, just this intentional focus on these things and just discussing them real briefly and just kind of getting that thought out there and just getting us to think about those things. This is day 5 of our Around the Campfire discussions here. And so if you have a copy of the Bible, paper or electronic, you can open it on up. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is where we're going to be here for today. And this is, we're talking about love. Be loving. Being present in the moment is greatly helped when we focus on and think about others before ourselves. It frees us from self-consciousness and self-pity. Do everything with love, the Bible tells us in 1 Corinthians 6:14. Trying circumstances can always be transformed with love. And so when I think about this, I think back to 2020. And what a year like for love that was, right? So every year I pick a word of the year, and that year was the word love. And it was focused out of this verse in the Bible, out of Colossians 3:14, and says, most of all, let love guide your life. And I want to say that kind of transformed me as I began to think about that. See, I pick a word of the year and I think about it and dwell on it and try to filter life through that word, just so I can help make myself better, help make myself more like Jesus, or whatever else you want to say about it, right? And so when I was sitting there, and I remember this, I was thinking of this word, and I was like, love, and I was like, love should guide your life. Love guided Jesus. Love was a big, it was all Jesus was, right? And I was like, just let love guide your life. So I typed it into Google. I was like, this can't be, this has to be in the Bible, right? This thought was too intense, if you will. And so I typed it into Google, and sure enough, it came up in a different translation of the Bible, but it came up with let love guide your life. But it added most of all, let love guide your life. And so I was really, really shocked. And it was something that really helped me, that love should guide your life. And I look back at Jesus, remember being focused and being watchful and being strong and being prayerful, content, and thankful, and all these different things that we've talked about. But being focused, right, is the main one, right? If we remain focused, that's the key. Remain focused on Jesus. Our life will feel different. It'll look different. There'll be a semblance of joy and peace that we don't normally have if we are focused on the storm, or we're focused on this, or not having that, or wanting this, or needing this, or can't believe this happened, and all these different things. We focus in on Jesus, and we let him show us life. So as I was thinking about this, I thought about that, and it's just a very interesting story that comes on that, and that's back in our archives. There's a podcast episode for it. If I remember right, I'm not exactly sure, because 2020 was an interesting year, if we can be real for that. So it may not have been there, but what we can do is, then I thought of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And so that's where we're going to go. And let's read this together. And so it says, love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous, boastful, or proud, or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no records of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance, and love never fails. And so when I think about this, I look at it and I see Jesus in all of these things. And we can read it as Jesus is patient and kind. Jesus is not jealous, boastful, or proud, or rude. Jesus does not demand his own way. Jesus is not irritable and keeps no records of being wronged. Jesus does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices when the truth wins out. Jesus never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. And Jesus never fails. And when I read it that way, I know it doesn't quite fit, and I know, there's somebody out there that's going to tear that apart, but I want you to see that this is exactly who Jesus is. Mainly when Jesus does not demand his own way, because if he demanded his own way, he wouldn't have gone to the cross. He's not unkind. He's not irritable. Yeah, he's had moments where he gets frustrated or whatever, but he's not irritable. He's not annoyed. He doesn't like it when things don't go the way they should. He wants the truth and the joy and love to win out. And he doesn't give up on us. He never fails. And he's so kind. Sunday's episode that's coming up is going to be about that, and I can't wait to just dive into that. It's going to be a kind of like a continuation of this kind of feel. But I sit here and I think about this, and I think about Jesus. And he is so loving that he did all of what he did. Everything that he did was through love, and love guided his life. That's why he talked to people that he, quote unquote, shouldn't have. That's why he was a part of the things. That's why he was on earth to begin with. That's why he did all that he did, because he was love. That's it. That's all. And when we think that way, when we see that, that's vitally important for us and how we should love. Do everything in love. Do everything with love. It becomes a focus on ourselves. Philippians chapter 2 tells us that Jesus gave up himself. He wasn't focused on himself. Beginning of Philippians 2. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to go to it right now, and I'm going to read it. Philippians chapter 2, you can go with me if you want. It says right there at the beginning, it says, do not be selfish and try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others better than yourselves. Don't look out for only your own interests, but take interest in others too. You must have the same attitude as Christ Jesus. You must have the same attitude. And the attitude is love. We can't be Jesus. We can only hope that we get close to being anything like Jesus was. But one of the main ways to do it, his attitude of love, is one of the biggest things that we can do for other people. Love always wins out. Love never fails. Love never goes away. The 1 Corinthians 16 also tells, 1 Corinthians 13 tells us right at the end, 3 things will last forever. And it says faith, hope, and love. But then it says the greatest is love. The greatest is love. Take love through your week. Take love through your month. Take love through let's take love through your day and then expand it to your week, to your month. Let love guide your life and see if it doesn't change you as well as the people around you. Because I'm going to tell you, first thing I thought of when I saw this topic on this list, I was like, let love guide your life. It changed the way I looked at things in 2020. And we all know what happened in 2020. I don't need to go over it. But when we look at that, the love that guides our life, it changes the way we look at people. It changes the way we see people. It changes how they see us. And Jesus says that it is how we love each other, how we care for each other, and all of that. And basically how we love will show that we are his disciples. That we are his followers, that we love Jesus enough to love others just like he did. So that's the encouragement for today. Let love guide your life.